Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Chaotic Conversations, backed by popular demand, might I add. With me, as always, is my favorite co host, Stella Brune.
Hi,
Stella,
hi.
you want to tell the people at home what we got planned today?
So today we're going to talk a little bit about generational trauma and rejection sensitivity. My original idea was rejection sensitivity, but I think also really need to touch on generational trauma because those two can be related. Um,
Oh boy, this is really going to be chaotic. Get ready, guys, because this shit's about to get heavy.
it's fine.
Spoiler warning alert.
Yeah. So, yeah, grab a blanket and a cozy drink, everybody. You're going to need
Grab
it.
the popcorn.
Yeah. Um, so what just happened? So for those of you watching, we have a windstorm here right now where I am, and our power just went out. Um, and I am with my partner right now, and my initial reaction was, "Oh no, now we have to start recording even later and pushing our night together even further back." Now in previous situations, I'm trying to put this in like a delicate way. That would not have been received well. And that is like evidence of my rejection sensitivity, because I'm so afraid that if I displease someone or I inconvenience someone in some way, that they're automatically going to hate me. They're just going to decide one day they hate me and they don't like me anymore, love me anymore, anything. So when I say rejection sensitivity, that's what I mean.
And I'm living proof of all the rejections.
However, I will say, but see, like, I feel like you've experienced a lot of rejection, but and I don't know, would you say you're sensitive to it? Do you think like everybody hates you now, just like when you get like a response that you weren't expecting?
I mean, I don't have people in my life like that. I
Okay,
don't
well,
have family. I don't have that many friends. I mean, I'm pretty much rejection hotline here.
but, like, if you like, with me, like, do you ever feel like, if I don't give you, like, the response you want or whatever, do you think that, like, I'm, like, gonna be, like, out of nowhere, I just don't like you anymore?
Yes.
Yeah, see what I mean? See what I mean? So, and then now we're gonna touch on generational trauma. So, in most cases, I think that that's what that comes from, is this, like, growing up not being, accepted or loved in the way that it probably you needed, makes you feel like those people don't love you, even if you know that it's true. Um How you feel like now you're being rejected, they don't love you anymore because they're not loving you in the way that you feel loved. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's kind of a loaded question. On the one hand, I don't necessarily think that I have high standards for being loved.
Well, I
So
don't either.
I just feel like I'm not that person that people really want around. I don't have much to offer anybody, and I'm not the best looking person. I'm not the funnest person. I'm not the richest person. So I feel like people don't really want to get to know me because I don't have anything to offer them. And the ones that do know me only want me because of what I had to offer them.
Okay, but then, like, why is love transactional to you? Like, that's the thing. Like, so again, with the generational trauma, like, it doesn't
Well,
need to
what
be
is love?
transactional. You just
I
accept people for who they are. Like, I don't think that you and I really, I mean, we get the rapport between the two of us, but like, without this show, like, I don't think I provide anything to you. I don't think you provide anything to me. I just love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're the exception to the rule, not the rule. The
I don't
general
think so.
consensus is that, love doesn't have to be transactional, but I'm not accepted either.
But I
That's
don't
why
think
my
that's
circle
true.
has 2 people in it. I have
But
2
that's what I'm
people in my
saying.
circle.
I don't think that I don't think that I'm the exception to the rule. I think that is the rule, but I think people have taken their I don't know, their leisure with love and has stretched it to, like, benefit them in the long run, and that's what people are so used to. So I think that that is seen as the rule and not the exception. And that when you just love someone because you just love them, like, that's how it should be. That is how love is intended. I don't think it needs to be transactional.
It doesn't, but what is acceptance? I mean,
Acceptance is
look at
love,
my life.
like that
Okay, but I have you and I have my husband, but that's it.
okay.
That's as
What
far as
else do you
it goes.
need?
Like, nobody else has ever really, I don't know, loved me like that. My
Yeah, but
family's
that
idea of love is I'll buy you what you want, just go away, and my so-called friends are, "Do what you do for me, but hooray for me and the hell with you. You
yeah,
can
but
be there
then
when I need you, but when you need me, I'm nowhere to be found."
right, but then that to me, like, it sounds like your definition of love is one way, is, just acceptance and just loving people for just who they are, like, without asking for something in return, but they
No,
don't know how to do that.
I'm not asking for anything in return, I just don't get anything in return.
You just wanna be accepted, you just wanna be loved back, and because that's how you love.
I don't know that I'm understanding where you're going with this.
I don't either, honestly, it's just like, I'm just
Because 'Cause you're
saying,
talking
like
about love and acceptance when I don't have either one. Like, nobody really accepts me except you and my husband, but beyond that,
yeah, but that's what I'm
nobody
saying.
else in my life has been that way. So
I
you
know.
can't expect me to understand something I never had.
I'm not expecting you to understand it. Well, I mean, to a point, but, like and that's pretty high expectation, I think, for me, and I don't mean it that way, honestly. Um, but I think that's everybody else's generational trauma, which sounds crazy to say. It's a very generalized statement, but, like, I feel like that's we all have our generational trauma, and I think a lot of people are so used to love being transactional. Do you see what I mean? You probably don't see what I mean. I see it in your face.
I mean, transactions happen every day.
They
You
do.
give something to get something, but most people want you to give, but they don't wanna give back.
Exactly. Exactly, because they're so used to getting, and that's where that trauma comes in, and it's either they're so used to getting or they're so used to not getting that they take whenever they can take. And those of us that give, that speak love in that way, that just give, like, at some point you have to set that boundary, which it sounds like is that's what you've done.
I mean,
You just
literally, my definition of love at this point is take the good, take the bad, take the ugly. And if you
yeah,
can't, bye. You
yeah,
either want me or you don't. I
exactly.
I honestly don't care either way at this point. I've spent a lifetime trying to people please,
Yeah,
and it got me nowhere.
yeah,
And in doing so, I got put on a pedestal with impossible standards that nobody could live up to.
yeah. Well, which
And
wasn't
the
fair to you as a child, like or even as an adult, that's not fair.
as a kid, I had to be the best at everything. If I wasn't the smartest or the fastest or the prettiest, I wasn't worth anything, even to my own family.
Yeah,
I've literally been beat down for as long as I can remember. So it's kind of funny to me when people are like, "Oh, why are you so hard on yourself? Why don't you have self esteem? Why do you always talk so down?" Because I've been taught that if I don't talk bad about myself, everybody else is going to do it for me anyway.
right. I'm gonna beat you to it. You can't think less of
So
me than I already think.
I'm gonna be like that scene in 8 Mile where Eminem's like pretty much ripping on himself, and at the end he's like, "Okay, now tell them something they don't know about me.
Well, and
I'll
I think
beat you to it."
right. But, like, it's, like, also like what we were talking about the other day, and I think this was in our first chaotic conversations where we had discussed how, like, we all have, like, a negative self-image, but it's so much more than that. Like, it's not necessarily a negative self-image, it's, like, how you were conditioned to think about yourself because you in particular were never conditioned to think like you were worth anything unless you met all these expectations, which is not true because, like, to your core, like, not only like, you're a fantastic person, Rebel, like, I know I can tell you that until I'm blue in the face and you're probably never gonna believe me, but you're a fantastic person. Like, I'm so honored to know you. I'm so honored that you love me like that. I feel very, very pleased with that. Um, but the fact that, like, you were never taught to see the value in yourself outside of what you can be is ridiculous to me.
I mean, I grew up with parents telling me that I needed to starve myself and become anorexic.
Yeah.
I had a family that threatened to starve me all the time. That's probably why I'm fat now, because, you know, I went through some shit and I had nobody to help me through it.
Yeah.
So I turned to the one thing that was always there,
Yeah.
food. Food
Yeah,
didn't judge me, it didn't criticize me, it didn't have any expectations of me. And when my family constantly threatened to starve me to death, I ate like I was never going to eat again. And
of
to this
course you did.
day, that trauma still carries into me.
And it's funny because, it's not funny, but, like, the fact that you say that, I have a brother who's adopted who, when he first lived with us, um, he had a very similar outlook on food, like, if he didn't eat it, he was never gonna see it again. And even his foster family before us, like, they never starved him. They fed him like they had a bunch of kids. They everybody got the same treatment, and they were really good foster family. He was very lucky to have them. Um, but it's the same thing 'cause just from, like, living with, I guess, his bio mom, like, she would never take care of them from what, the stories that we were told that she didn't do a very good job taking care of them. And that's her trauma because of everything that happened to her as a child. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and it goes into that, and it's the same thing we were going into with, like, when we were talking off camera, about, like, serial killers and stuff. Like, everything that happened to that person leads to how they treat others in the future, and it's breaking those patterns, I guess, is what we're like, our generation, I think, is working through. And then when we're doing it, our kids' generation and the generations after them are gonna continue to work through. I hope.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm ready for it to end with us.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
ready
it's
for the cycle to break.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I
and
remember being home alone at 2 years old.
ugh.
2 years old.
But see, and, like, my earliest memory is a trip to see my grandparents overseas when I was about that same age. So, like, and again, in the first recording, which was going well, um, which was like, I, our childhoods were just so different because while I also have my own things, um, I think, like, the fact that we grew up with very similar ideologies, but also very, very different ideologies is interesting based on our pasts.
Yeah, it's funny how similar we are, and yet we're still so different.
Exactly. Exactly. We literally could be sisters except for, like, our stories are so completely opposite.
Yeah, you're basically mostly what's good about being a parent, and I
Thank you.
never saw any of it. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like I was born to a family that never wanted me,
Yeah, and I've never wanted
and
anything other than my kids.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not even sure why my mom had me, to be honest. Like, part of me feels like I kind of wish I'd never been born because I wasn't really wanted.
Mhm.
I just think that I was born to save face because back in those days, people were anti-abortion and anti-adoption, and you took care of your own problems at home.
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah.
like that's the whole purpose I was born.
Yeah.
Or, maybe a baby sounded good at the time, but the responsibilities were just too much.
In practice, not what you thought. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever noticed as a parent, you spend the first 2 years of a kid's life teaching them how to walk and talk, and the next 16 telling us to sit down and shut up?
But see, but I don't think that that's necessarily, so getting onto the parenting, like, I don't think that that's necessarily a good way to look at it either. Like, I taught my kids, and to this day, I still teach my kids to walk and talk, but to speak up for themselves, like, even against me. Like, if I'm saying something or doing something to hurt them, I want them to tell me, "Do not sit down and shut up. Do not take that." Because my whole thought is, like, as their parent, if I'm telling you it is okay to tell me that I'm hurting you, you should be able to tell anyone that they're hurting you,
And I was the complete opposite. I was
right?
raised to keep my mouth shut,
I was raised not to talk back.
be seen, not heard.
Yep, yep, I was raised that same way, and it's, while I understand the ideas behind it, I think in practice as an adult, like, that does not add up because I've had to teach myself to speak up and I still can't. There are still
I mean,
situations in which I will just sit around and just, like, take whatever is given to me, as you know, based on previous situations and discussions.
I wasn't even allowed to cry,
Yeah.
or I got my ass beat.
I was, "Stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about." Uh,
Yep.
and again, my parents are
Yeah.
great parents, they were doing the best that they could at the time, like, they did a really good job with us. It was just, those are things, and that is, And as an adult, I can understand that that is a step better than what I think my at least my mom received.
And my family growing up couldn't understand why I hid absolutely everything from them.
Mhm, mhm.
They were not the kind of people I could talk to about anything. I mean, God, when I was a kid, I could come home from school and be like, Susie was mean to me today, and tell my aunt or my grandmother, and I'd get a 3-hour lecture about sex.
Oh, that
Like
doesn't
back then,
that
no, literally everything I said. Well, if you fuck, you get pregnant. What
okay,
that got
well,
to do with this bitch being mean to me?
right, I'm 7 and she's mean.
Right. I'm 7, not stupid.
Right. Well, so and that's just crazy. It's like but then at that point, like, they're not listening to you. They're not listening to you, they're not
They
helping you
never
solve these
did. They
problems.
still don't. They
Yeah.
still don't. I'm almost 40 and they still don't listen. They still tell me to sit down and shut up.
Yeah, well, we're not doing that anymore, like, that's not
Yeah,
how we
that's
handle this anymore.
pretty much what I told him. I was like, it was fine when you tortured me as a kid, but I'm grown and I don't live with you. You
Yeah.
don't pay my bills. You don't take care of me. Yes, you
Yes.
took care of me when, you know, I was almost homeless on the street from heart failure,
Right.
but
But again, they have no power over you at this point. And there's
I
there's
live
power in hearing that, like, and saying that, like, "You have no power over me."
I mean, I've made it known that I'm no longer the peacekeeper.
Yeah.
I'm not going to continue being the bigger person. I'm not going to continue taking the path of least resistance cuz they call
Right.
me rebel and it's for a reason.
Yeah. You want me to
So,
cater to your feelings, it's not happening anymore.
if you cross me, you're going to find out exactly why they call me rebel cuz I will
Exactly.
hurt what's left of your feelings cuz I barely have any anymore.
Yeah. I always say if I don't have feelings, when I absolutely do, I just don't like to feel them.
I mean, I have feelings too, but I'm tired of getting them walked on and letting people hurt them. You
Exactly, but
know,
setting those healthy boundaries is like, how we're breaking those chains, and it's how we're going to rewrite whether it's how they treat us or not, it's gonna be how we rewrite how we are received. Now, whether they take that and adjust their own responses to us, that's one thing. But if they take that and they take it to heart and they get insulted by it, that's a completely other thing, and that's a them problem.
I mean, I one of the things that I absolutely cannot stand in my old age is somebody telling me that I need to take their feelings into consideration when they don't give a shit about mine.
Exactly. Like
Why do
I
I have to care what you have to say if you don't want to hear what I have to say?
right, and it's like I don't have a problem reciprocating, but if you're not gonna show me that common decency and respect, why on earth would I show it to you?
I mean, if you're going to punish me for having an opinion, I'm going to give it right back to you. Because at this
Exactly.
point, I'm treating people exactly how they treat me. Except the funny thing is, when you treat people how they treat you, they don't seem to
They
like
don't
it
like
very
it.
much.
They don't like it. Not at
But
all.
why was it okay for you to do it to me, but it's not okay for me to do it back though?
Exactly.
Don't dish
Exactly.
it out if you don't want to. Don't dish it out if you don't want it handed back to you.
Right. Well, and there's also like and then this is a speaking on a personal situation, like if you decide that someone is treating you a certain way and you're not allowing that person to speak on it or give you their opinion and like this is what's happening and this is, this it's not what you're telling me is happening, but I'm going to tell you what's happening and then you choose not to take that and just decide that you're correct and no matter what they say they're wrong. That's also a you problem. Like you don't get to decide what's happening just because you want it to be one way. Like you don't get to play the
Yeah,
victim like that
agreed.
or the hero alternatively.
Also agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just like that whole situation and like I've personally learned that like I have to adjust how I respond to certain situations simply because I was raised to do one thing or maybe not even raised to do one thing. I was conditioned to respond one way, and that's not the best way to respond. So, they say flight or fight. I mean, sorry, fight or flight. But then there's also freeze and fawn, and in those emotional situations where, you're being met with a overpowering emotional response, um, how do you respond? And in my case, I was always taught to freeze. Um, like, don't
I'm a
move.
fighter.
Yeah.
I'm a fighter.
Yeah. Emotionally, I'm a freeze. And I know that because that's what happened and that's how I've responded in the past. I don't fight. I just, okay.
I used to be that person that would clam up the minute somebody started yelling or they started talking derogatory
Yeah.
or saying things I didn't like. I would clam up and get quiet. But now I ain't doing that no more. Life's too fucking short.
Yeah. And I like, and hopefully I'll get to that point at some point, but like, and I've gotten much better about it and much better about like not accepting, not being bullied, I guess, into to certain feelings and situations. But like last night I had this dream. A certain person had manipulated me into staying around them. Um, you'll know what I'm talking about, I think.
Mm,
Um, they had, kind of manipulated me into staying around them, and then they were like, "Well, what do I do in this situation with this other um, person that's surrounding me? Like, if we're gonna do this, like, we're gonna be interacting in this way. Like, what do I do?" And I'm like, I didn't say we're gonna interact in that way. Like, what are you getting at? Like, and I was back in that like freeze situation where I'm like, I don't know. Um, and that was a weird thing to wake up to, but it's in that situation. It's like, and then I can see myself like the fact that I had a chance to be like, I don't think I want to do this. And also kind of trying to speak up was like me just kind of gaining that traction I think that I need in my not dream world.
right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Life is a fickle bitch.
Seriously. Um,
I actually heard a song back in the day, and part of it was talking about how, you fall before you fly, and when things get messed up, you want to just give up. Nothing seems right, then it turns out fine.
mhm.
And that's kind of how my life goes. You know, just when you think you learned all the rules, that's when they change and you got to do it all over again.
Somebody changes the game. Turns out you thought you were playing Monopoly, but it's really like Trivial Pursuit or something crazy.
Or Yahtzee. We'll
Yahtzee.
just
There you go.
throw it
That's a
out.
good one.
We'll throw it out in left field. It's not even on the same playing field as Monopoly. It's just way over there. The only thing they have in common is dice.
Something changes, all you hear in your head is Yahtzee.
Although, did anybody but me ever realize that Yahtzee's just the dice version of poker?
I never even thought about that. That's a good point. That's
You got
funny.
pairs, you got three of a
Yeah.
kind, four of a kind, full house, straight, flush,
I bet there's like a historian out there who's like really like into games that could tell us 100% that that's why it was developed.
or they're
Um,
going to be like, no, that's not at all what they had in mind. They were basing it off dominoes and just made it dice.
oh my gosh, dominoes. So my my grandfather, I've the only time I've ever played dominoes was with my granddad. And he had a set at his house one time and my brother pulled them out probably just to stack them and knock them back down because kids. And he
Jenga.
yeah, exactly. And then he sat there. My grandfather sat there and like taught my brother how to play and I like but mostly him. Taught like sat there and talked us through the dominoes and how to play it. It was like this like hour-long lecture. We were like, we're so bored. So so for Christmas a couple years back, I actually made my older brother a resin set of dominoes. I gave them to him and he was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" And I was like, "I just thought it would be a good gift for you. What are you talking about?" Oh, it's so funny. My dad thought it was hilarious.
That's like back when I was a kid, one of the things I remember most about my childhood was my great grandmother. And she she and I used to color like the velvet pictures together, and we back in the day she taught me how to crochet. Can't do
Oh,
it now, but I knew it back then. And like she would play, we would get together and do like family game nights and things. And I remember being a kid like, oh, I'm so bored doing all this. I don't want to do it. But then as an adult now, I'm like, oh, let me color, let me do this, let me do that. I want to play the board games. So everything I hated as a kid, I've grown to love as an adult.
yeah, it's so weird.
It makes
And
no
like,
sense.
what's funny because I used to love board games when I was a kid, and I don't really play that many games as an adult. I'll play with the kids, but, like, I bought them some of my favorite games one year for Christmas, or maybe they got them from Santa, I don't know. Sorry, but 13 Dead End Drive was the one that I loved. It's it's a game about murder, I think. Um,
My
like,
kind of game.
I love that game, but I played that with the kids. Of course, I won because I annihilate my children. This is not I don't cater to the kids. We don't play fair in this house. We play to our abilities. I'm just really good. Oh, Clue is another one.
That's my husband's favorite.
Oh, such a good game. I love Clue. And then
He
I'll win and I'll be like, I try to like hold it in because I'm like, I don't want to win every time, but I'm like, I know the answer. I always feel bad, especially for the little one because he
Not
doesn't.
me. Not me. I will
Yeah.
win every time. I will fight kids. I don't care.
We'll get to the point where I'll win, and then I'll be like, you guys should just play the two of you. And they're like, no, we want you to play too. And I'm like, I'm gonna
But
keep
I'll
winning
win.
because the little one will get mad at me for winning. And I'm like, sorry, I can't not win. I like, and
It's
then
just
like,
in you
but also like when they win, they get so excited. So it's like so much better when they win.
because they earned it.
Right.
You didn't just hand it to them.
Because you beat mom. Like of all the people, you beat mom. Um,
I
but
think
yeah.
I think the reason I'm kind of I don't know. I think I'm kind of regressing back into childhood as I get older simply
Why?
because I spent my entire childhood between hospitals and funerals.
You get a
And
chance
then
to live that, like to relive that.
I never really had a childhood, so now I'm kind of making
Yeah.
up for lost times as an adult because I'm like, oh, I've got money. Oh, I can come and go as I please. Oh yeah, fuck yeah, this is
Yeah.
great. And then the bills show up, and I'm like, oh, this ain't so fun anymore.
Oh, that's not what I like. I don't like that part.
What the?
But
Just like,
it's
oh,
go ahead.
I just it reminded me of the funniest thing that I saw on YouTube the other day.
Okay.
This girl was posting a short and she was in her car at a red light. And you know how sometimes homeless guys come up and they'll like wash your windows or they'll just ask for spare change? Well, this homeless guy comes up to her and he's like, "Hey ma'am, you got any spare change you can help me? I'm really hungry. I just need to get something to eat." She's like, "No, man, I ain't got no spare change. I just keep bills with me." He's like, "Oh, well, that'll work too." She said, "Oh, okay, here you go. Here's the light bill, here's the water bill, here's the sewer bill, and the trash bill. And while we're at it, here's the car note, the rent." He's like, "Nah, lady, I don't want this shit. I have my own shit."
Like, what do you think I want it for? That's funny.
Yeah, that would be me.
I
I'd be like,
I
"Sorry, all I keep is bills. Here you go."
yeah, I had a homeless guy one time stop me at Dunkin' Donuts to tell me how awful the Dunkin' Donuts people were, and he was like, "You shouldn't go here anymore." And I was like, "Okay." Like, I just wanna get my coffee and leave, like, stop talking to me. But, like, because they wouldn't let him, like and I mean, I'm all for letting people sit when they need to sit. So I don't like, I don't know, it's like one of those things where it's like, he needed a place to stay and it's a public place. Like, there's no reason he can't stay there, but he was there for so long that they told him he had to leave or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
they do that because they have a habit of like bugging their customers for money and
yeah,
or they'll harass the employees for free things and it just
right,
becomes a whole big mess.
right. So, like, for that, I get it, but, like, of course, his story is he wasn't doing any of that. And I was like, "Okay, why are you talking to me?" I'm like, "I just wanna get my coffee and go to work." Like, "Please stop."
Actually, back in the day, if I ever I've always said if I ever like really made it big and I had the money to burn, I was going to pretty much buy a big huge property to create an animal sanctuary.
Mhm.
And in doing that, I was also going to create like a homeless community and pretty much give the homeless community the opportunity to kind of use the animals for therapy, like therapy
I
animals.
love that.
They would take care of the animals and they would get free room and board and all the money that they would have gotten paid, like it would be like a 2 or 3 year program and all the money that they would have gotten paid that they didn't would be saved for them in an account, and then at the end of the 3 years they would have the opportunity to either become full-time staff and work for a paycheck, or they could take that money that was saved and go make their own life.
So it's actually pretty funny that you say that because my dream is, like, tiny homes for the homeless. I would love to, especially because I'm so close to, like, Baltimore City, I would love to buy a plot of land and just build some really tiny homes on it, and do the same thing, but provide services like, uh, job services, like interview coaching, resume writing, um, or anything really, like therapy, because a lot of people need therapy, um, and things like that, and they're just, like, the services that should be available to people who, are unable to afford them or whatever, but, like, provide those services to get these people back on track to carry on with their lives independently, because a lot of times that's the issues. They've lost all of their abilities to be independent, and
This is
it's
true.
unfair.
I actually like that idea, and kind of branching off of that, I've also thought that, like, abandoned shopping malls would make a great homeless community
Mhm. Old
because
hotels.
old hotels, abandoned shopping malls, they can live in it, they can
Mhm.
create their own working environment,
Mhm.
they can have a doctor on site, they can have a food court, they can have apartments, they can have
Mhm.
department stores. They could create their own little economy inside of an
Yeah.
abandoned shopping mall.
Yeah, and the worst part is, like, not a lot of people, like, there's not a lot of communities that would go for that, but, like, there's one literally right next to my house. There's a dying mall right next to my house that imagine being able to repurpose that entire mall for the greater good.
I mean, the thing about it is everybody looks down on the homeless people like the vagrants of society, but do you want them out on the street harassing you, or do you want to give them a safe place to go
Well, and that's
to
just
keep
it,
them
like, they don't
off the
have a
street?
safe place to go. And the vast majority, and this is what bothers me about, like, the way society views people that are disadvantaged is, like, the vast majority, in my opinion, of it's not even in my opinion, it's, like, the vast majority of people who are disadvantaged in that way, something happened and they spiraled and they were unable to crawl back out. And if you can
Um,
give people support to be able to grow their lives independently, like, why wouldn't you do that? But we're not built as a society to support those people. We're built as a society to look down on those people, which is a problem for me.
so funny story. I used to work at Highland Hospital, which is a mental health facility. It's a mental health facility. And I would venture to say 90% of our clients that came in were homeless people just looking to get off the street, out of the
Mhm.
cold, out of the rain,
Mhm.
and a lot of them had very similar stories. And most people, obviously, look at the homeless automatically like they're all addicts. They're
Yeah,
just
that's not the case.
they're just on the street because they don't want to work. They did this, they did that, they lost all of it because of drugs. That's not always the case. A lot
Mhm.
of the people that I talked to when I was admitting these people to Highland, a lot of them were in a situation I found myself in.
Mhm.
They were working until they got hurt or they got sick and they couldn't work anymore.
Mhm.
And then we all know disability takes like 2 or 3 years to get sometimes,
Mhm.
especially if they deny you 3 times before they give it to you. That's up to 3 to 4 years.
Mhm.
Who the hell can live like that with no money coming in? I
Yeah.
myself would have been on the streets if it weren't for my aunt and my husband.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of them got in that situation through no fault of their own. And then at that point, they had nothing left to lose. So they turned to drugs and alcohol because what the hell else were they going to do? Sitting on the street corner.
But also at the same in the same sense, if someone is hurt and they're in that situation, they're gonna turn to drugs and alcohol because that's what's gonna kill the pain, because you can't afford the medication, so what else is out there? Alcohol's
And
fairly cheap,
alcohol,
street drugs can be
certain
fairly cheap.
alcohol. There's certain alcohol here. You can get a giant bottle of it for $12.
Yep, same here.
And it can, not only does it serve the purpose of trying to escape the pain, but it's also a sanitizer.
Mhm.
So if you get cuts on the street, you can use it to sanitize your wounds and clean your
Right,
wounds when obviously you can't shower.
right, right.
I mean, at that point, I can't blame the people for what they've done because let's be honest. If that had happened to me, I'd probably be in the same boat. I'd
Yeah,
probably be an addict myself.
right,
I just got lucky that my husband took pity on me and didn't let that happen.
right.
But now I'm back in that same situation as we speak.
Yeah,
Again, if it weren't for my husband, I'd be out on the street because I haven't been able to work in 4 months.
exactly.
So, what like I'm not understanding what the world thinks we're going to do if we can't work and nobody's going to give us money to not work.
Right. Because
I
you
mean,
can't you at that point, you can't, like, you physically cannot work. Like, you physically cannot work.
no,
Like
I can't.
and it's just it's so surprising to me that it's not like there's, like, no even, like, in the meantime supplement, you know what I mean? Like, in
I mean,
between the
that's the
time.
thing. It takes an act of God to get disability, and they try
Right,
everything they can to tell you you're not sick enough for it.
right.
At one point, they told me that having 10% of my heart left wasn't a good enough reason not to work.
You need 0.
I'm like,
Um,
lady, you're lucky if I can stay awake longer than an hour.
right. Well, and
I
it's
can't stand more than 5 minutes.
and that's a double-edged sword. Like, I understand where they're like, "Well, we need to just be 100% sure." But if like, in your case, like, if you're like, "Hey, you know, your doctor's writing this letter that says you only have 10% of your heart that functions, like or you only have 10% of your heart function. How is that not enough? Like, your doctor is telling them that. And if they're lying, that's their medical license, not you.
I mean, my thing is in a situation with disability, like I've been fighting since like, I don't know, October at this point.
Mhm.
And they told me that even if I get approved, I'm not going to see money until June or July.
Right.
So that right there is literally a long time,
Yeah.
almost a
It's
year with
almost a
no
year.
money, no
Yeah.
money coming in.
Right.
How the hell
And
did you think I was going to pay utilities and food and rent
and
and
that's the
car
thing, and it's
payments?
I'm not quick to say they don't care because I don't know that that's necessarily the case, but I think the system is so built against fraud that it's really hard for someone who is telling the truth to actually get approved, and that's not the way it should be. It
Well,
should be the
here's my
opposite.
thing.
Don't accept
When
everybody,
it
but, like, obviously, if you need to look into something, look into it, but don't take 9 months to do it.
Well, here's my thing, okay? I get that you want to be thorough. I get you want to make sure that you're not just giving your money to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, okay?
Of
I
course.
get that you want to make sure people aren't just faking excuses not to work.
Of course.
So, in a situation like that, why can't you give them money up front? And then, if they are proven not to be disabled and they have to go back to work, you cut
Garnish
that
those
money off
wages.
and garnish their wages to pay it back.
Exactly.
Instead of making people like me have to go
Right,
live on the street until you decide to get off your ass and push some buttons on a computer.
right. Well, and then it becomes like, "Oh, well, those people never go back and work legitimately." That, again, is not people like you, that's not your problem. It's the
Right.
government's
Why
problem.
do
They need to
why
figure out
do
a better solution,
why
not
do
to
the
make everybody else
few
suffer.
why do the few have to pay for the sins of the many?
But it's also but my problem is, like, at that point, they're stepping over pennies to make or stepping over dollars to make pennies because it's not. I think the fraud is so few and far between, but because they make a big deal about it and they talk so much about it, they put it out there, it seems like a huge problem when it's really not that big of a problem, but it's also not your problem to solve. You shouldn't suffer for it.
Oh, and don't even get me started on any kind of assistance once you are disabled, okay? They it takes an act of God for them to give you food stamps.
Mhm.
Like, you have to get a letter from your employer saying you haven't worked in X amount of time. You then have to have your doctor write them a letter saying that you're disabled, why you're disabled, how long you're going to be disabled in order to get food stamps. They give you no kind of utility assistance, no kind of rental assistance, no temporary cash assistance if you have no children. So, a person like me who is single,
Right.
no kids, no dependents, I don't matter.
But that's
They
not
would
the case, like, that's
literally see me they would literally see people like me out on the street because we don't have kids,
right.
and that shouldn't be fair.
No, well, it's not fair. It's not that it shouldn't be fair. Point blank period. It
But
isn't
then
fair. That's a statement, not an opinion. That's it shouldn't be like that.
and here's the other thing that gets me. People like me can't get disability with heart failure, but I know other people that got disability for having mental health issues.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, but again, like, that needs to be medically backed up with doctors, and, like, I'm not one to argue with someone's physician as well, because if you are dis I don't like the word disabled, but if you are unable to work for mental issues, that's perfectly legitimate, but that is as legitimate as a physical disability in my case. Again, I don't like the word disability.
I mean, that's my thing. Like, I'm not discrediting mental health
Absolutely.
as, you know, special needs, but I don't feel that that special needs should be more important than
Exactly.
something like this. You
Right.
know, yes, they should be on the list too if they absolutely can't work because of their mental health.
Right.
But people like me with actual physical ailments, heart failure, kidney disease, cancer, we should be top priority, not bottom of the list.
Right, exactly, exactly, and then it also goes into, like, the case, like my mom, she who I told you she had one leg, uh, so with her going into it, like, she was unable to work. Could she get to work? Yes, but how is she supposed to get there? She can't drive. She can't get herself to and from. The only reason she was able to work, and this is a whole different discussion I had with someone at work too, but, like, if she had been able to get into work, that would've been one thing, but, like, luckily, she was given the ability to work remote for most of her illness. But at a certain point, how do you prove that you can't work because, you're physically disabled? Like, she could barely get around the house, much less get anywhere else. And then she also had a heart condition, so for her to be able to do anything, much like yourself, she couldn't work because her heart was bad and her diabetes had been so bad, and then she had also lost her leg, and it was so many different things, but it was so hard for her to get. And I think she had actually been approved for disability, but then she passed before she could even receive it.
I mean, like in my case, okay, yes, I'm young. So because I'm young, people think I can't be disabled because I don't have a disability you can see. I don't have an ailment that you can see.
But
Like
disabilities don't care.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had to write heart failure across my forehead and tattoo
Right,
it on for you.
right. Well, and it's we've touched on this about, like, scooters and stuff too, like, people will judge you because they don't appear to look you don't appear to look sick, like,
Oh
again, I'm gonna
yeah.
go back to my mom, like, and I might have said this in another recording, but, like, we went on vacation together and we were somewhere Florida, I think. We were somewhere and we had gone into just like a Walmart and I went in, I got the scooter. And of course the lady looked at me like I was crazy, but I was like, don't care. So I got it and I came out to the car and I had all these people looking at me like, you're not disabled. Like, what's your problem? Like, you don't need to be using the scooter. And those same people had changed their looks by the time they saw my mom roll in. Uh, so it was like a complete change of demeanor because they could actually see it, but, like, it was like, "You don't know that I don't have something." Like, I could have an autoimmune disease that means I can't make it from the front of the store to the back of the store. I could have a heart condition. That means I can't walk 3 feet without having, shortness of
I
breath
mean,
or
that's me.
yeah, that's what I mean, like, you don't know that, and just because I look like I'm young doesn't mean that I don't have those issues.
I mean,
And
like in my case, I have issues breathing.
mhm,
I have issues walking long distances. I can't stand more than like maybe 5 minutes at a time.
right,
And I have a condition that there's really no treatment for.
right.
Like, I have problems with the muscles in my heart from where I had my entire heart basically a blood clot for almost a year.
Ugh,
So, in dealing with all the ramifications from that, I have a condition now where at any point in time, very minuscule things could send me into a heart attack. Something as
right.
simple as sneezing could send me into a heart attack.
Well, that's why I was scared
And
when I scared you earlier.
I was a social worker that had to transport children on a daily basis, hours at a time. I'm not talking going around the corner. I'm talking driving 6, 7, 16 hours a day type of driving. And the doctor put me on disability. He wouldn't let me work anymore for that reason because I could literally kill somebody being behind the wheel of
Mhm.
a car.
Yeah. You were a sneeze away from being a medical emergency for everyone involved.
And even me in the situation I was in, like I've had very similar experiences to what you dealt with, where people look at me like I'm lazy or I'm fat and I just don't want to walk when really I can't. I mean, at
Mhm.
one point, I had a grocery store tell me that I had to show them my disability placard and prove it was registered to me for them to let me use a fucking scooter.
And you don't have to do that. That's also, like, I'm pretty sure that's a HIPAA violation, just so you know.
And I went in Walmart with my grandmother at one point, and she used a scooter too, obviously, because she
Mhm.
has the same heart problems I do.
Right.
And they looked at me like I was just lazy until like we actually got into an argument over me being just as disabled as she was.
Mhm. Well, and that's
Like
the thing,
it's horrible.
literally, one look at my mom and you could see, like, obviously, she had one leg, so she wasn't walking through a store, like, she's not gonna hop, um, but, like, people would just, like, look at her immediately and just assume that she was just lazy or fat or whatever, and she's neither of those things. If anybody knew my mom before she lost her leg, she was an incredibly active 60-plus woman, like, she was so independent, and losing her leg literally robbed her of her whole life, and you wouldn't think that, but, like, it's very similar to what happened to you, like, having an unexpected illness or injury like that, like, it robs you of your independence, it robs you of your whole life, and then you now have to deal with people who wanna judge you because all of that is gone, and because you have to make accommodations for you.
And not only that, people treat you like an inconvenience. I mean, I went
Mhm.
on a trip with a friend of mine and she used me to her advantage when it was convenient, but then when it wasn't convenient, she bitched at me the whole time for having to be the way I was.
But and that's not okay either, and I just ugh. It's like it's no different than, like, a food allergy. Like,
Like,
"Can we eat here? I don't know. What can you eat? Can you eat here? Because if you can eat here, yeah, we're good. I'll find something anywhere." Like,
well, like when we
it
were getting
doesn't
the
kill you to
VIP,
be like that.
like when we were going to these different events and we were getting VIP treatment because I was in the scooter, she was all for it. But then when it was not convenient and it was a pain in the ass for me to have to drag my scooter everywhere, then it was, well, you got to lose weight. You got to do this. You got to do that. I don't want to have to deal with this.
Well, then don't, like, don't you don't have to be here.
But then 5 minutes later, when we got to the front of the line because I was handicapped, then it was, oh, I'm taking you to all the theme parks with me.
Yeah. I'll take you
But
everywhere, however.
but 5 minutes ago, I was nothing but an inconvenience, and you couldn't stand having to do this. But now because it's to your benefit, it's okay.
That's what I was saying earlier about love, like, that is the acceptance piece of love. If you and I go to a theme park together, I will absolutely walk around the theme park with you and do whatever is in your abilities. However, I love roller coasters. Not one time am I gonna be mad at you because you can't run a roller coaster. Like, I would never do that to you, like, and I would never do that to anybody. Like, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Let's go walk around the zoo. Let's go you know what I mean? Let's go watch some shows.
I mean, I'm the kind of person like I'm not just gonna blindside you with my
Yeah. Like, here's what's
limitations.
happening. Yeah.
Like I will tell you numerous times up front, hey, maybe if you want to do this activity, it's cool, but I can't.
Right.
Here's my limitations. I can do this, I can do this, I can make this work, I can make this work, but this, and this, it's not
Exactly.
handicap accessible, so I can't make that work because I need my scooter.
Well, and that's the same thing that goes along with your vacation, like, you weren't, blindsiding them with it, but it's like, "Okay, you tell me what's within your abilities, and those are the things we're gonna do together. If there's something you would rather do, if you wanna go take a nap, I might go do the thing that I can't do with you, but if I'm doing this with you, I wanna be with you because you're the focus, not the other stuff."
I'm not the one that wants to hold anybody back from anything, but at the same time, you can't get mad at me if I can't do it.
Yeah.
You knew
Well,
up front what you were facing.
and that's just it too, and it's like and maybe there's a little bit of, like, not understanding the expectations until it's in your face, but again, like, it's not like you were, like, lying about it. "This is what I can do, this is what I can't do."
I mean, my God, the first hotel we stayed at, our room was all the way on the third floor and there was no elevator.
How did you even do that?
So, very carefully, I basically told her, like, I'm staying down here until we're ready to go up there. Because once I go up there, I ain't coming back down till I'm ready to leave.
Yeah,
Because
no.
I can't run up and down those stairs like that.
Yeah,
And
no,
it
I would have
about
been like,
killed
"I
me
got the
just to
bags."
climb up them.
Yeah,
Like by the time I got to the top, I was having breathing trouble.
yeah. But
But I just kind of calmed down and let it go.
when you booked it, did you tell them?
It was one of those it was a haunted location, so it
Oh,
was kind of
that
we
one.
had to take what we could get
Yeah.
type of deal. So
But they
we
still
didn't
should have
really
been
have a
able to make
choice.
accommodations. Like,
I mean, there was no rooms on the first floor, and
oh, at all?
all the all the second floor rooms were booked. Like we had two rooms to choose from, and they were both on the third floor.
Oh, I gotcha. I mean,
And I had made literally like a 20-hour drive that day.
oh,
So, of course, she lived there, so she wanted
nothing for
to.
her.
Right. She wanted to stay up and ghost hunt, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not gonna make it that long." Like,
No.
thank God the spirits decided that they didn't wanna talk much, and by midnight, they were done. Because so was I.
They were like, "You know what? You get some rest. We'll talk later." But yeah, I can't imagine for any reason not being able to make accommodations for someone, even if it's like a mental health thing. Can you do it? Yes or no? Like I my we were talking earlier off camera about our best friends who passed away. But mine, we would always have a code. So like he was my person like to call when shit hit the fan. So there was a brief period of time where he was like the only person I could really talk to. Like him and another friend of mine. And then I got to the point where I was able to talk to more people, but that's beside the point. Um, I also have to stop myself from, like, accommodating everybody's feelings, um, with words. But he was
I'm
like
same problem.
yeah, he was, like, one of, like, a couple of people I could talk to, and we talked almost every day, and I called him one time, and he was like, "I can't handle this right now," and I was like, "Oh, okay, like, that's not a big deal, like, that's fine," and he was like, "I feel like" what did he say? He said he felt like he needed to tell me, like, we needed, like, a code for when we couldn't take on the other person's, like, stuff. So we just came up with "I'm full." So if I called and I was like, "Hey, are you okay? Can you have space?" And he'd be like, "I'm full," if he couldn't take stuff up, and I would just be like, "Alright." And then we would just talk about whatever he needed to talk about until he got to a place where he was more comfortable and I could talk about what I needed to talk about. I miss him so much, but he, like, making those accommodations for someone, and that's what I was getting to earlier, is, like, being able to make those accommodations where it's not transactional. Like, you have those transactions, absolutely, but you're not basing your relationship with that person on the transactions between the 2 of you. I give you this, you give me that, which it feels like that's what people are looking for with you, and I don't think that that's fair because you do have a lot to give, but I think people need to understand, maybe with you in particular, that, like, if they could just get to know you and understand and maybe just appreciate you for who you are, like, you're more than willing to give anybody anything.
I mean, that's the thing, like, you of all people, I'm the kind of person, Imma always be there when you need me,
Absolutely.
but you cannot need me every time you see me, and you can't only see me when you need me.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that is the kind of love I have been conditioned to believe is love when really it's just convenience.
Right. It's just because they know that you're gonna pull through because they're conditioned to, "Well, Rebel's always there for me because Rebel's always been there. She's always gonna be there." Like, that's not the case.
No, it's
At some
it's
point,
really
Rebel's
more
gonna
like
stop.
Rebel has abandonment issues and acceptance issues and doesn't want to be rejected, so she'll do whatever we say so that we stick around.
Right. Right.
And she's never going to realize that we only want to stick around as long as she's doing X, Y, and Z. But once X, Y, and Z stops, then we're going back to ABC over here.
Exactly, and then she'll never know because 'cause she'll be ready for the next time.
And then, when we need her again, we'll just come back and give her a sob story and she'll be right there to catch us when we fall.
But that just makes me think, like, what happened to those people? Again, back to the generational trauma, like, what happened to those people that made them think that that's acceptable? Like, were they treated that way? Like, was, the love that they received growing up or learning to love, like, was that what they viewed as love? Was like, "Oh, you do for me, and that's what I need, not I do for you."
No, I think they were more raised the opposite of me. So, like, I was raised to be the people pleaser. I was raised that if you're not doing something for someone,
They can't
then
possibly love you.
they can't love you.
Right.
They only love you as long as you benefit them.
You know who
But
you are
the
right now?
people but the people that like to be benefited are the ones that grew up with the parents have even that have impossible standards for them to live up to. You know, you got to be the best at this, you got to be the best at that. I'm teaching you to be strong and independent, and you got to be a boss.
Yeah,
You don't take orders, you make orders. You don't follow rules, you make the rules.
yeah,
That's those kind of people.
yeah,
They only see you as a benefit because you're not a person, you're a business transaction.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that love should not be transactional.
Love
Not
should
in
not
that
be
way,
transactional.
not in that way, because
And
that's conditional.
I'm the kind of person, I love people unconditionally,
Same. I
but
do
I have
like, I
my
try to
limits
operate
now.
every day on love. Yeah, you have to have boundaries, especially when you're that way, because
Like, I used to be a doormat, and now
yeah,
I'm not.
I try to speak love in all that I do, but, like, there comes with boundaries too, and I mean, it's tripped me up before. I've done things, that I shouldn't have in certain situations, and I've behaved in ways that I'm not proud of, but, like, I'm human. Um, but also, like, it's because I've been a people pleaser so long that, like, at one point, like, I completely was just like, "Well, fuck everybody else. It's all about me now." Do you know what I mean? So it's like I needed to do that, and then, of course, you overcorrect. And I've done that too. Um, but it's the same thing where it's like I don't have to cater to you just because you exist. Like, I'm happy to
Right.
speak love to you, and I'm happy to be here for you and to support you in any way that I can, but that doesn't mean that I have to give you more than I possibly can. Like, you have to set those boundaries, especially when you're somebody who's like that. But you know who you remind me
I
of?
mean,
Did you watch Encanto?
no.
You have to watch Encanto because you are Luisa.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
You have to watch it.
But I mean, just here recently, like, I had a person in my life that called themselves my best friend, and, you know, ended up in a very similar situation to the one I was in, or I'm currently in, you know, ended up sick, couldn't work for months,
Mhm.
had to deal with cancer treatments, chemo, whatever. Nobody came to bail that person out. Like, the entire family, her entire family, just was going to sit there and watch her end up out on the streets, did nothing to help her at all. Michael and I did everything, kept a roof over her head, food in her stomach, paid all her utility bills, paid her phone bill, kept her in gas, took care of her animals, and she don't even speak to me. She don't
That's
even speak to me
ridiculous.
now because she don't need me anymore.
And that's so ridiculous. Like, I can't stand when people are like that. Like, I have a cousin, she she's my second cousin. She's my cousin's daughter. She consistently the only time she ever reaches out to me was when she wants money, and then one time I told her no, and she hasn't reached out to me since. I have another cousin. It's actually another second cousin. It's her older sister. She and I are very close. Like, her daughter is my goddaughter. Like, I love her to pieces. Um, yes, she has times when she needs money, and I'm happy to help her because we have built a relationship where, she's like my little sister. Like, we talk all the time, and I feel bad because she's currently in a different state at a shelter because it's what she needs, that support, and she was able to get it by going to that state. But, like, if I had the space, I always told her, like, if I bought a house, I'd buy a house that had space in it for her and her kids too. But, like, I'm so proud of her as a human, but our love, and it's funny because, like, same parent, like, they have the same mother, like, she and I are so different, and her sister and I are so different. Like, her little sister, like, I don't speak to her because I just don't. Like, it's just it doesn't work out for us, but she and I, like, it is not transactional, but she has the benefit of having access to those benefits with me because we have the relationship where I'm happy to help her when I can because I know her.
It's me, right? Is it me?
It's you, it's totally you.
It's
Yeah.
totally me. Hi,
But you
it's
also have
me.
those benefits, like, I love you to pieces, you're my family, whether, like, that's it's not necessarily blood, it's water, based on our last conversations.
Actually,
Um
you're the blood of the covenant, not the water of the womb.
Exactly, you are the blood of my covenant, and for that reason, it's like, you have the access, like, if you needed something and I could give it to you, I would try. I would do
Same.
whatever I could to do it, you know what I mean? So I'm happy to, like to do those things for you because I know that our relationship is not based on what we can do for each other, it's because we just have a mutual, just raw love for each other because it's I appreciate you as a person, I love you as a person, and I'm just happy you're here.
Same.
Yeah.
But like in your case, I'm at a point in my life where I will take care of those that take care of me.
Mhm.
But I also, because of my abilities, I know when the mood shifts and
Mhm.
the energy changes, and I notice things that you wish I wouldn't.
Mhm.
So I'm all for helping people until I start seeing all the reasons why I shouldn't.
Right.
And that's what happened with that friend of mine. You
Right.
know, I bent over backwards. When she broke up with her ex, when she needed a place to live, I literally gave her my own apartment. I paid
Mhm.
her first month's rent. I paid the deposit. Michael and I paid the deposits to have her utilities turned on and everything. And then I started noticing that the only time she talked to me is when she wanted something
Right.
or needed something. And every conversation that we had ended up with, well, if I had money, I'd get this, or I need that, or it was always to ask me something without asking for it.
Right.
Let me
Right.
just throw it out there that I need it and you'll go get it.
Right. Right.
And
You'll do whatever you can to help me.
then I started noticing that that was the only time she talked to me. And every time she did talk to me, that was all I got was what I need. I need, I need, I need. Gimme, gimme, gimme.
Mhm.
And then when I tried to tell her how I felt about it, she turned it around on me and called me a bad friend for and
Setting a boundary.
said that I was throwing everything up in her face because I was saying how I felt. And then she would ditch me to go bail out the family that did absolutely nothing for her. Now, mind you, I took care of her for, I don't know, probably 8 months. 8 months. And
Yeah.
in that time, at no point did anybody in her family ever once thank me for anything I did for her. Not did a single one of them offer to pay any of her bills. They didn't even offer me any kind of money to help me pay her bills.
Now did they know that you were paying them?
Yeah. I
Oh.
mean, how the fuck else was she gonna have a life? I mean,
Well, I
they
didn't
weren't
know if maybe
paying it.
she didn't I don't know if maybe they just thought that, like, the government was giving her money or something, like
I mean, her mom at the very least knew
yeah.
what I was doing. And not to mention, I made a 12-hour drive to visit her in a hospital. But you think when I was the one in the hospital, I even got a fucking phone call? No,
Yeah.
I didn't get
No.
a phone call, not a text, not a voicemail, not an in person visit, not a FaceTime, nothing. But I got one comment on a post I made on Facebook. That was it. Let me know how you're doing. That was it. One comment.
Like, why would I tell you at that point? Like, that this is
I'm
the
like,
extent of our communication, why would I even bother to tell you?
I'm
You can
like,
find
but
it on Facebook.
you're supposed to be my best friend.
Right.
And I'm not supposed to feel the way I feel about you because you claim to be my best friend, but you do nothing for me. You
Right.
don't talk to me. You don't hang out with me. You blow me
Right.
off for stupid shit.
I'm giving you love, you're giving me nothing.
Like, you wouldn't have a pot to piss in if it wasn't for me.
Right.
And
Because at
I'm
that
not the
point,
one to hold.
Well, but at that point, like, you're taking care of her, you know not just that, and it's not about the money, it's like, at that point, you're pouring love into her, and she's just it's almost like she doesn't even care.
Exactly. It was expected.
Right.
And my thing is, like, you're not doing anything for me, but you keep expecting so much from me.
Well,
And then
that's
when I tell you how I feel, you turn it around on me and become a true narcissist and play the
mhm,
victim when I'm the victim.
right. Well, and it's not even like, who's the real victim here? It's more just like, how do you not see that this is one-sided at this point? Like, how do
That's
you
my
not see
thing.
that? And it's her turning around and playing the victim just proves to me that she did see that she was seeing it as one-sided, but she didn't. She benefited so much from it that she just wanted to continue it.
Right. She thought I'd never catch on, but I
Right.
noticed too much. I've
And you're
been
not
through too
stupid.
much. I've been through too much not to pick up on the signs,
Right.
especially when I notice things like that because I pay attention.
Right.
And
And,
I'm not even the kind of person that would hold shit over your head if you did right by me.
right.
If you were that friend that was like right by my side doing everything for me that I did for you, or at least doing what you could to the best of your abilities,
Right.
then
Anything.
I
Like,
I would have never held anything I did for you over your head.
it's like, I'm
But
not even asking much. I'm just asking you to be my friend.
right, I'm
I'm
asking
just
you for basic human necessity of a conversation.
right.
I didn't even say it had to be on a daily basis, but it would have been nice to hear from you
Yeah.
without you wanting something from me.
Right. Right.
But like, if you would have been there calling me on the phone every day, checking in on me, knowing how sick I was, knowing I almost died again,
Right.
knowing I was in the hospital.
And not
If
even,
you
like,
had
every
been there
day. If you would call me, like,
right.
one
If
time,
you had shown any kind of
a text
concern for
message.
me, if you had shown any kind of concern for me that I've shown for you, but I mean, I literally made a 12-hour drive to Cleveland, you couldn't even drive around the fucking corner.
Right. Right.
And that's where I ended it.
And I would have too. Because at that point, I would have been like, I can't do this anymore with you.
And now I'm at a point where I kind of feel like I have to pay people to hang out with me.
Well, you don't have to pay me. Just
I
saying.
mean, that's because you just got the shitty end of that deal.
What
I'm
deal?
no longer hiring. You're just a volunteer at this
I
point.
would happily volunteer to hang out with you. I love you. I love our conversations, and I love that we're doing this. And I want to say you actually said something that was really funny. When you said that your friend was like asking you for stuff without asking you for stuff. When you first brought this to me, the conversations and the interviews and stuff that we're doing, and you were like, "Well, I'm doing this thing, and this is what I want to do." And you were like alluding to it, and I was like, "Well, if I can help you, I will," because you know me. I'm gonna be like, "Well, if you want to help, I'll help you." And you're like, "Well, actually," and it's just so
I had
funny.
already planned on this.
I was just gonna say, it was just so funny because I was like, yeah, I was like, well, you did that, but like in a much, much more positive way, obviously. But it's funny because I was like, and you knew I would say yes. Like, I'm not gonna tell you no.
Right.
Not for this
And I
anyways. If you were
mean,
like, give me your kneecaps, I'd be like, I need those.
I mean, I'm the kind of person, you know, you could literally lose both of your arms and I'd give you one of mine because I got another one.
Exactly. Well, I was just gonna I'd opt out of kidneys. I said kneecaps because I was like, oh, you could be like kidney. I'd be like, okay, you can have a kidney. I'm like, I don't need both, I guess.
I mean, I would donate organs if I could, but none of mine are worth shit.
Yeah.
Maybe my brain, that's about it. Well, nope, that one's damaged by the stroke. So I got 50% of my brain left, which is why I forget shit constantly and have issues talking. And I got 15% of my heart left currently. So yeah,
Better than 10.
that's why this show is my only job now.
Well, and that's just it. Like, and it was just like, but again, that goes back into the speaking love thing. Like, number one, you asked me to do it with you. I was going to say yes. But number two, this is something that gives you something to look forward to. And if I can give that to you, why wouldn't I? Yes,
Yes,
obviously I chose you to be my family, but like,
you are the only part of my day I look forward to.
get in line. No, I'm just kidding.
Besides the cooking.
In
We
the
can't
front of the line. Oh, yeah. I'm so into cooking
I'm
right now.
sorry, you're just gonna have to stand in line, take a number behind the crock pot.
Here we go with the crock pots again. Where's Stacy?
Right? We need to go get Stacy. I'm
Somebody
gonna
call
tag her in
Stacy.
I'm gonna tag her in this video and be like, "Stacy, we called you out. You must come join us. When the hell is our paranormal potluck?"
Oh my god. What did I made chicken cacciatore in the crock pot the other day. It was so good.
I'm making barbecue chicken in mine tonight.
Are you using your shredder? I love it.
It came. I'm
Oh my
using my
gosh, that's
little
awesome.
my little tenderizer too.
Oh, did you get the shredder that, like, you put the chicken and then you do the thing with the top? Oh, that's so cool. You have to let me know
It
how it works.
literally it literally looks like a giant weed grinder.
I know. I know. That's what's so fascinating. But I mean, I guess it
That's
gets the job done.
that's literally what my husband thought it was at first. He was like, "Damn, babe, is that a weed grinder?"
You need one this big,
He's
geez.
like he's like, I don't think it's gonna fit in there, babe."
That's funny.
I'm
Yeah,
like, "Well, that's what she said."
that's funny. Back to that. Um, roosters. Um,
Male chickens, get it right.
there's boy chickens and then there's girl chickens. Uh,
Speaking of that, do you know what I just learned? Okay.
oh, what's that?
For the life of me, I cannot remember the name of this movie. You have kids and you're a Disney fanatic, so you might be able to think of what it was. But there was this movie I remember back from when I was real young, and it's a Disney movie. I remember it being on Disney about a rooster, and it was like a musical. And I remember that there was some kind of flood or something, and they had to do sandbags or something, and the rooster's name was Chanticleer. And what made me think of that is the fact that Chanticleer is also another name for male chickens.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I I don't know. So when you said that, I thought of Robin Hood, Disney's Robin Hood, because the rooster sings in that, like especially right in the beginning, and I've always loved the intro to that movie. It's not my favorite, but I've always loved the intro to that movie.
No, the
But
chicken in this one was I want to say maybe it was Dangerfield that played the chicken. Rodney Dangerfield maybe?
ooh, why does that
But
sound familiar? Hold on.
like the chicken was the main character. He was like an Elvis character. Like he sounded like Elvis when he sang, and he had to do some kind of singing to save something. But for the life of me, I can't remember it. Like I was so young, but I remember the name Chanticleer, the chicken, the rooster, and it was like a farm, and I think there was a pink Cadillac or something in it too. But
That is
I
so
only
weird.
I only remember bits and pieces, and I cannot for the life of me think of what that movie was called. But I
Was it
think
called
Dangerfield might have been in it.
okay, it's not a Disney movie. Hold on. It's called, Rock-a-Doodle.
Okay.
It's
I
called
swear I saw it on Disney though.
I don't think it's a
Me?
Disney movie. Hold on, I'm looking it up right now, so hold on one second.
How the hell did you even find it?
Glenn Campbell is in it. It's not, Dangerfield. Glenn Campbell, hold on, like, that man can do, like, anything. It's, uh hold on. Oh my gosh, all these old faces, that's so funny. Who made this movie? Uh,
I don't know, but I
I'm
want
in,
to know
like,
where to
7
watch
different
it
directions
now.
right now. It's a Don Bluth film, if that means anything to you. He wrote it.
Mm. I've heard the
Um,
name, but not enough to know what the hell I'd be talking about with it.
so it's the same director that did An American Tail and Land Before Time.
Well, that would make sense. This was a cartoon
Because
too.
yeah, the little guy looks just like, Fievel. Oh, I don't know who produces oh, MGM, it looks like. MGM Studios produced it. Sorry, that's totally not what we were talking about, but yes, I've not seen it, so I didn't know what you were talking about, but the first one I thought of was the rooster from, Robin Hood, because he
It
does this,
might
like, really cool intro.
I mean, it may have been on Nickelodeon, I don't know, but I swear I thought I watched that movie on Disney back in the day.
I mean, I feel like back in the day, a lot of stuff was, like, back and forth and just, like, it didn't really matter licensing and stuff, so it's very possible. Um,
Yeah, it was probably back before Disney became strictly Disney.
yeah. Well, now they're, like they own everything. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Yeah, that's a story for another time.
Well, at least
But
we know the world's going to hell in a mascot costume.
but I just want you to know that Disney now owns 20th Century Fox, and that means that Anastasia is a Disney princess, and I am so tickled by that because that is one of my favorite movies. But it also means that Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show is also a Disney princess. And
Was Anastasia not a princess to begin with? Didn't she marry a
sh
prince?
Anastasia was a princess. She was the Tsar's daughter. So Anastasia is the story of the lost princess Anastasia. Um, Queen Victoria's daughter actually married Tsar Nicholas. Um, so Anastasia was one of their daughters. But the Romanovs were all murdered, and they, went back and forth as to whether or not they actually thought Anastasia was one of the murdered Romanovs. But I think they did find her
I
body
mean,
after all. But there was like this whole like movement on like she's not dead, like she escaped, she just doesn't have her memory. And there was a woman for a long time who like claimed to be Anastasia. But it turns out that they did end up, I think, finding her body at some point, which was a lot less romantic than the fantasized she escaped and actually lived a full life.
I know that there was some kind of theory that that the Disney Anastasia was also connected to Disney's Tarzan too.
So that wasn't Tarzan. That was I'm not no, that wasn't Anastasia. It was somebody else. Hold on. Who was it?
Was it Anna and Elsa maybe?
Yes. Yep. Yep. It was Anna and Elsa. Like their parents, when they got lost, when they died at sea, they didn't die at sea. They got stranded, and they ended up having Tarzan. Like she was pregnant when they left, and she had Tarzan, and then they ended up living on the island. And if you look at it, it actually it looks like it could be true. Um, but Disney's so integral in their like little Easter eggs and details that it could very well just be that they just planted those things because they could.
I mean, yeah.
Because Disney.
All the Disney movies these days have other Disney movies in them, especially in the credits.
Yeah. I love when they do that though. Like that makes me so happy. You have to watch Encanto because you'll know exactly what I mean when I tell you that you're Louisa.
Okay. I'll tell Mike to put it on our list because I think he has Disney Plus.
Oh, it's so fun too. I haven't watched Encanto so many times. Inside Out is my favorite, but Encanto's a good one. Like I've really come to love like their newer movies too, so it's interesting. Inside Out's probably my favorite. It's my I don't have anything to watch or I don't want to watch anything new movie, so I just turn on Inside Out.
Yeah, I do that a lot these days because, like, my ADHD gets the best of me and I can't sit still. So, like, I'll sit down and watch a movie, but at the same time, I got to be surfing on my internet
Mhm.
on my phone and playing a game on my phone and talking to five different people.
Yep.
Like, I cannot single task. I cannot. Like,
Um,
this right here is the extent of my single tasking.
I can't even do that. I
And
just
even
Googled
then,
Rockadoodle.
even then, I'm still checking my phone and sitting here slightly texting while you're talking.
I've looked at my phone 700 times. I
Is
just got
that
an Amazon
all?
Alexa thing. Huh? Is that all? Yeah.
Is that all?
You're probably at 701, so it's fine.
Only because I just looked at it.
We just got a wind advisory, and it's been windy since like 2 o'clock. Thank you
We,
for telling me 7 hours later.
yeah, we had flooding here.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of rain, but we have very strong winds right now, and that's what canceled the first recording. So that the power went out because the wind was so strong.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Actually, I thought it was just because I was talking shit about Nicolas Cage.
I was like, "Fuck this. We're not talking shit about Nicolas Cage."
They
Click.
was like,
I'm out.
somebody that created the movie Longlegs heard me talking shit.
I didn't even see that, so I'll have to go check that out. I just love
Please
Nicolas Cage. Please don't.
don't. Please don't. It is. How do I put this nicely? It's basically Nick Cage in drag and not in a good way. Like,
Oh,
crazy serial killer grandma kind of way. Not Nick Cage. Not what you would expect
oh,
from him. Like, I think it's honestly one of the worst roles he's ever played in.
oh.
Like, I don't I'm also not really a fan of the girl that was in that movie because a lot of the movies that she plays, she's just so Kristen Stewart. Like there's no
Oh,
emotion there. It's
just
very
like
flat and
yeah.
monotone and always looks constipated.
Well,
Like she
so it's
can't wait
funny.
to finish filming so she can shit.
I tried to watch Twilight and I couldn't because she's like to each their own, but like because her acting is so like there's no expression happening. There's nothing happening
Right.
here. Whereas
Right.
like Jenna Ortega completely on the other side, like she acts with her eyes. Um
But she can also play people like Wednesday that have no emotions and
exactly.
then turn around and play a part like Astrid in Beetlejuice that
Right.
is very emotional.
Right. Right. She's just well
I
versed.
love
And then
I love Jenna Ortega.
me too.
Speaking of which, can somebody tag her in this and get her on our show? Just saying.
Oh, my
I
child
know
would
somebody out there in Twilight Zone knows these celebrities. Bring them to me.
my child would not be okay. She loves her.
Oh,
Um,
oh, for sure. If I got her on the show, I'd let the kids at least meet her.
yeah, for sure. I'd be like, "Hold on, come in." But, the other one I have if our lights go off, feel free to outro. Um, but, the because I just saw them flicker a couple of times. Um, the other person that, like, I've actually and this one is, like, somewhere in the middle, like, I've come to appreciate them as a whole, but I think it's because they actually came into their own would be Elliot Page. Um, because for a long time, like, I couldn't watch anything that they were in, but since they've really, like, owned their identity and become who they truly are, his role, how they did the whole Umbrella Academy stuff, like, his role in Umbrella Academy was by far my favorite. Like, I love Klaus. Klaus is everybody's favorite character. Um, but Elliot Page's performance, I think, was phenomenal in that role.
I'm not gonna lie. I may be like the only person in the world that didn't see that coming, but like I never expected that transition. Of course,
So
most
I
people didn't really expect Bruce Jenner to transition either.
well,
But
yeah. But, like, I don't know that I necessarily saw it coming, but I don't know. It's one of those, like, it's like I would like to say that I did, but I don't necessarily assign myself to knowing any of these celebrities like, at all.
I
But,
mean, I think I would have ventured to say that when he was Ellen, was it Ellen Page?
I don't know because Elliot Page is just so right. You know what I mean? I don't even remember who they were.
Yeah. Um, I would have expected him to be gay before I'd expect that transition. But I honestly think he kind of looks better as a guy. But I also have seen plenty of guys that look better as women than I do.
Well, and it's for me, it's like when someone owns their identity like that and it becomes so complete, like, it's like I could I don't know how I don't know how we didn't see it before, and it's totally like, you're just like, "Yes. Mhm. Yep. We're here
I
for
mean,
it."
I'm not gonna lie. At first, I thought he was like a twin brother of the original Page.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, that's cool. They're like acting together." And then I read a little more, and I was like, "Oh, that's the same person. Okay, I get it now."
Yeah, it was so cool, and it's just like, I don't know, I love how they've come full circle into who they are because it's really something to see.
And like, I'll say this. Um, I have okay. I'm big on first impressions. Okay,
Mhm.
so I have some friends that I met them when they were a different gender.
Mhm.
So I have two friends that were originally female, and they have now begun transitioning to male.
Mhm.
But before they began transitioning to male, I knew them for X amount of years as females.
Mhm.
So when they decided to transition, it took me a long time to catch up to accepting that. Not
Yes.
that I had a problem with it, it's just once I meet somebody as a first
Mhm.
impression, that's what sticks with me.
Well, that's
So
also,
like
like, very human too. You just have to rewrite it's but also I think there's, like, you have to allow time to rewrite your memories and rewrite your thoughts on that person, like, and who they are because, "Oh, they're not who I thought they were. They're this other person instead," which is perfectly acceptable, obviously. but it's rewriting those memories.
Well, not only that, it's just, I mean, I think I'm a creature of habit, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a Capricorn, so we don't typically like change. So like, for example, um Mike,
Mhm.
if I had met him and he introduced himself as Michael, that would be what I always called him. I
Mhm.
would never shorten it because he introduced himself as that. So that to me says that's what you prefer to be called. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So to go say 10 years calling this person one name and then overnight have to continue change it all up, it
Right.
takes me a minute to catch on. I mean, oh Lord knows my one friend, I called him every name in the book except his his right one back when I was trying to catch up to the transition because, you know, they started with a different name and then transitioned to another one and it took me a minute to catch on and I had to keep correcting myself like no, no, no,
Right.
wrong. That's not
Right.
it. Or I would accidentally call him a female out of
Mhm.
habit.
Right.
And thankfully he never got upset about it because I guess he understood.
Right.
Like I
Well,
met you
and
as a female all these years ago and now you're hitting me with this, but
but then also, like, it's easy to understand, but they've lived that for so long where they know that they're not female, they're actually male, but they have a female body, and they've lived that for so long that they know that to be true, but they're just telling everyone else, and they're just getting to the point where they're comfortable expressing and being themselves that it's gonna take us time, like, it's gonna take other people time to catch up.
I mean like
And
he
most
was
people are fine with that, but then it just takes time.
I mean, he's the one if I have questions, like, I'll ask him. I'll be like, "Look, I don't mean to offend you, but I really wanna know this."
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes I think certain things are funny, but it could also be offensive.
Mhm.
So, like, if it so, like, there was a meme on Facebook for a while that said, I guess it was back when everybody the big boom started happening with transgender, and
Yeah, because it's no longer taboo. Like, it's mainstream now enough that people can be themselves.
I
Yep.
remember seeing a meme on Facebook that says, "I no longer identify as fat, I'm now trans slender." And I'm like, "I think that's really funny, but I don't wanna offend an entire population of
Right.
people
Right.
over a meme." So I sent it to him and I'd be like, "Hey, as a transgendered person, does this offend you?" And he's like, "Hell no, I think that's funny as shit, I'll post it
Right.
myself." But then that brings me to the question, like, is that one of those things that's only okay for you to post because you are transgender? Kinda like, you know, white people can't say certain words or black people can't call us certain things, but it's
I don't
okay
know.
for them to say it, but we can't?
I don't know, honestly, and
And then
it's one of
and
those
then
things
I
where it's
sl
like, as long as it's okay for, I think we all have people who are in certain communities, it's like, does this offend you? Like, but knowing that it doesn't offend everyone on across the board, I think is where it is. Like, your friend, you know that he's gonna be offended by certain things, and if that's the case, yeah, you're not gonna post that, but I think checking with him first just to make sure that, like, grand scheme, it's not gonna offend every person because no matter what you post, someone's
you're
gonna
gonna
get
offend
offended.
somebody.
Right,
You're
right.
always gonna have Karens.
I made one saying that my pronouns are try/me, so I identify
I
as a problem. What did it say? I identify as a problem. My pronouns are not try me.
I mean, I've gone off on people before and I'm like, "Yeah, well, I may be broke, but I identify as rich."
Right, right. I identify as broke, and I'm broke.
But, you know, that's kinda where I draw the line, you know? I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm all for if you feel like you're in the wrong body and you need to not be female or not be male, you know, if you want to be male to female or female to male, that's fine and dandy. Where I draw the line is when you wanna start identifying as no gender, you wanna identify as animals and barnyards and inanimate objects and
So no gender, I understand. So gender fluid, I understand. Non-binary, I understand because I can understand not feeling like either side. Because if you ever felt on the outside of everything, I absolutely have. So I do understand those things and understanding that like some days you feel more feminine than others. Like Demi Lovato, like at one point they wanted to be referred to as they them, and then I think they recently said they were just feeling more feminine, wanted to be referred to as she her. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with either one of those things. And maybe it's just because I don't understand, like, I don't understand identifying as anything other than human, but
right.
yeah, I don't understand that, but, like, maybe
I'm
it's just
like, if
because I
I
don't
can't go
understand?
into I'm like, if I can't go into the bank and identify as a rich white billionaire, then you can't identify as a fucking cat, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like, it's different, like, they're getting kitty litter and cat treats, you're asking for money that isn't yours.
Isn't everybody?
So
Isn't everybody? I mean, you go
yeah,
to
but I'm
work for money
saying,
that's not yours.
but it becomes yours because 'cause they're paying you for what you're doing.
But if
I'm
I
just
but if
saying.
I identify that way, I should be able to have it that way.
"I want it, give it to me."
Exactly. It's my money and I need it now. Call JG
J.G.
Wentworth.
Wentworth,
877
877
cash
cash
now.
now. No, hey, if they wanna sponsor us, we would like our cash now as well.
Although going back to the identifying as cats, I did see a cop own this guy on YouTube. The cop pulled up the guy, I guess they were speeding or something. I think maybe they were speeding and then they ended up having like drugs in the car or something.
Oh,
Where the guy had a suspended license. I forget why he pulled him over. But he goes up to the driver and the driver's wearing a collar and a leash and the guy just hands the cop his collar and he's like, that's my identification, I identify as a cat. So the cop, being the cop, he's like, oh, okay, that's the game we're gonna play, okay, great. So are you the owner of this cat? Because last time I checked, cats can't drive cars, they don't get licenses.
that's exactly
So
what I
what
would've done. Cats don't drive
he's
cars.
He's like, so what I can do is since he's not producing a license and he's identifying as a cat, I can go ahead, take him down to the pound, have him tested for rabies, and give him all kinds of vaccines. You can come pay to pick him up from the pound.
Yeah, after you get arrested because you're letting your cat drive.
Right. And the guy was like, I'm not doing that. I don't have money to pay for him. He was
Right.
like, well, then you probably shouldn't have let your cat drive the car, should you?
Just a thought because, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah. But
Uh,
anyway, I think I have kidnapped you long enough and I need to go make dinner and I'm sure your dinner's been waiting.
yeah, we have pizza downstairs, I think.
I'm telling you, we got to stop this talking forever cuz I mean, we literally went for an hour and a half.
I just love you. Well, we planned for an hour. Whoops, but then it's an hour and a half. Sorry. I didn't mean to keep you. I just love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. Anyway, feel free to comment, email, like,
Like,
share, subscribe.
yeah,
If you guys want to
absolutely.
email us any good, bad, ugly, we welcome everything. Although
Yeah.
spoiler alert, again, Karen free content here. We
Haters
don't
gonna
care
hate.
if we offend anybody.
We're not gonna respond, so you do your thing in the comments.
I
I'm not gonna
mean,
respond to
haters
Karens.
gonna hate. Yeah, we
Exactly.
don't respond to Karens, but if you're serious about some critiques, we can
Yeah,
work that out. Just hit
absolutely.
us up at
Topics.
yeah, just hit us up at thrivingin chaos tv@gmail.com and I'm
Yeah.
sure by now most people know our respective profiles on Facebook and we're on TikTok
Yeah.
and Instagram. Just look us up.
Yep. Thriving in Chaos show on
And on that
Instagram.
note,
We out.
and on that,
Later, Gators.
we out.